The god's wife of Amun, Hatshepsut, was born into the heart of Egypt's most powerful and glorious dynasty, the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom. She was the daughter of the Pharaoh Thutmose I, a great warrior king who had expanded Egypt's empire to its furthest extent. From birth, she held a position of immense prestige. She was not just a princess. She was a god's wife of Amun, the highest-ranking religious title a woman could hold, effectively making her the divine consort of the most powerful god in the Egyptian pantheon. As was common practice to keep the royal bloodline pure, she was married to her own half-brother, Thutmose II. Her husband's reign was short and unremarkable. He was a frail and sickly ruler who left behind only one male heir, a young boy also named Thutmose, who was the son of a minor palace concubine. When Thutmose II died around 1479 BC, this infant, Thutmose III, became the new pharaoh, but a child could not rule a great empire alone. As the new pharaoh's aunt, stepmother, and the former queen, Hatshepsut was the natural choice to serve as his regent. She would rule in his name until he came of age. This was a traditional and accepted role for a powerful royal woman. For the first few years of her nephew's reign, she dutifully played this part, the capable queen regent governing on behalf of the boy king. But Hatshepsut's ambition and her belief in her own divine right went far beyond that of a mere placeholder. Transformation into a king around the 7th year of her regency, Hatshepsut did something unprecedented and audacious. She was not content to be the power behind the throne. She wanted to be the power on the throne. In a brilliant and carefully orchestrated political move, she had herself crowned not as a queen, but as a king and co-ruler with her young nephew. She became a full pharaoh, adopting the complete five-fold titulary of a king of Egypt. To legitimize this radical break with millennia of tradition, she launched a sophisticated propaganda campaign. She commissioned inscriptions and reliefs that rewrote her own history. These official accounts claimed that her father, Thutmose I, had not just intended for her to be his heir, but that the god Amun himself had appeared to her mother in the guise of her father and had personally sired her. Her birth, therefore, was a divine miracle, and her right to rule came not from her husband, but directly from the king of the gods. She also began to transform her public image. In statues and temple reliefs, she was increasingly depicted in the full, masculine regalia of a pharaoh. She was shown wearing the traditional kilt, the striped nenis headdress, and most strikingly, the false beard of kingship, the ultimate symbol of pharaonic authority. She was no longer Hatshepsut the queen. She was Motker, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt. While her nephew, Thutmose III, was not deposed, he was shown in reliefs as a junior co-ruler. Walking behind her, there was no question about who held the real power. The temple at Deir el-Bahari, unlike the warrior pharaohs who had preceded her, Hatshepsut's reign was not one of great military conquest. Instead, it was a period of immense peace, prosperity, and architectural innovation. Her primary focus was on securing Egypt's wealth through trade and glorifying the gods, and herself through a magnificent building program. Her crowning architectural achievement, and one of the most beautiful and unique structures in all of ancient Egypt, was her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Carved directly into the face of a soaring limestone cliff on the west bank of the Nile, the temple, named Djeser Djeseru, holiest of holy places, was a masterpiece of harmony and elegance. It was a series of vast colonnaded terraces connected by sweeping ramps and adorned with lush gardens of exotic trees. The temple was more than just a tomb. It was a grand narrative of her life and reign, its walls covered in exquisitely carved reliefs. Here, she depicted the story of her divine birth, reinforcing her claim to the throne. And here, she recorded the greatest triumph of her reign, a fabled trading expedition to a distant and exotic land, a journey that would become a legend in Egyptian history. The voyage to Punt, one of the most celebrated achievements of Hatshepsut's Reign, immortalized on the walls of her temple, was a large-scale trading expedition to the mysterious and distant land of Punt. The exact location of Punt is still debated by historians, but it was likely somewhere on the coast of modern-day Eritrea, Ethiopia, or Somalia. To the Egyptians, it was a semi-mythical land of riches, the land of the gods. Around the 9th year of her reign, Hatshepsut dispatched a large fleet of 5 massive ships, which sailed down the Red Sea on their epic journey. The reliefs at Deir el-Bahri depict the voyage in stunning detail. They show the Egyptian ships arriving in the exotic land, with its dome-shaped houses built on stilts and its strange flora and fauna. The Egyptians are shown trading simple goods like daggers and beads with the people of Punt, who are led by their stout chief and his unusually large wife. The expedition was a resounding success. The fleet returned to Egypt laden with the treasures of Africa. The reliefs show a great procession of sailors carrying their cargo, vast quantities of fragrant myrrh and frankincense, ebony, ivory, gold, exotic animals like monkeys and giraffes, and most prized of all, 31 living myrrh trees, their roots carefully bundled in baskets. These were the first known successful attempt to transplant foreign trees. Hatshepsut had them planted in the courtyards of her temple, a living testament to the glory of her reign and her ability to bring the divine riches of a foreign land to the heart of Egypt. The peaceful Pharaoh Hatshepsut's reign, which lasted for over 2 decades, was one of Egypt's most prosperous and peaceful periods. While she did commission some minor military campaigns to secure the borders, her focus was overwhelmingly on economic prosperity and artistic creation. She launched an ambitious building program throughout her kingdom, restoring temples that had been neglected and commissioning hundreds of new statues, and a pair of magnificent obelisks at the great Temple of Karnak, one of which still stands today. The tallest in Egypt, she ruled as a full-fledged pharaoh in every respect, and the machinery of the Egyptian state ran smoothly under her command. She was supported by a network of loyal and highly competent officials, many of whom had served her father, including her chief steward and rumored lover, the brilliant architect Senenmut, who oversaw the construction of her great temple. Her co-ruler, the young Thutmose III, was not imprisoned or hidden away. He was the head of the army, learning the craft of a warrior while his stepmother managed the affairs of state. For 22 years, the woman who was king ruled over a stable, wealthy, and thriving Egypt. The erased Queen Hatshepsut died around 1458 BC, in her late 40s. The cause of her death is unknown, but recent analysis of her mummy suggests she may have suffered from cancer and diabetes. Upon her death, her nephew and stepson, Thutmose III, finally became the sole ruler of Egypt, a role he had waited for his entire life. Thutmose III would go on to become one of the greatest military pharaohs in Egyptian history, a conquering hero often called the Napoleon of Egypt. For the first few years of his solo reign, he seemed to respect his stepmother's legacy. But then, late in his reign, a systematic and determined campaign to erase Hatshepsut from history began. Across Egypt, her name and image were chiseled out from temple walls and monuments. Her statues were smashed to pieces and thrown into pits. Her name was removed from the official king lists. The goal was to pretend she had never existed, to erase the uncomfortable anomaly of a woman who had dared to rule as king. The official history was rewritten to show that Thutmose III had succeeded his father, Thutmose II, directly, with no female pharaoh in between. The motives of a successor, motives behind Thutmose III's persecution of his stepmother's memory, have been debated for centuries. Was it an act of personal, pent-up vengeance against the woman who had usurped his throne for over 2 decades? Or was it a cold, calculated political decision? Many modern Egyptologists lean towards the latter. Thutmose III may have been trying to restore Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of cosmic order and balance. A woman ruling as a king was a profound disruption to that order. By erasing her reign, he was not necessarily acting out of personal hatred, but out of a conservative desire to ensure that no woman would ever again dare to take the full titles of a pharaoh, thereby securing a smooth, patrilineal succession for his own son and future generations. He was not erasing a person he hated. He was erasing a precedent he feared. The rediscovery Thutmose III's campaign of erasure was remarkably thorough. For thousands of years, the story of the great female pharaoh was lost, her name a forgotten whisper among the ruins. It was not until the 19th century when the pioneering Egyptologist Jean-François Champollion, the man who deciphered the Rosetta Stone, began to notice something strange. He saw inscriptions where a female ruler was depicted with the full titles and regalia a king. It was the meticulous work of early 20th century archaeologists, particularly Herbert Winlock's excavation of her temple at Deir el-Bahri, that finally brought her story back to light. By piecing together the smashed fragments of her statues and carefully deciphering the altered inscriptions, they were able to reconstruct the history of her remarkable reign. The queen who had been systematically erased was finally restored to her rightful place in history, a timeless legacy today. Hatshepsut is recognized as one of the most successful and fascinating pharaohs of the New Kingdom. Her story is a testament to her immense ambition, political skill, and her refusal to be constrained by the conventions of her time. Her magnificent temple at Deir el-Bahri still stands as a monument to her unique vision and her peaceful, prosperous reign. She remains a powerful and inspiring figure, a woman who, 3,500 years ago, dared to break every rule, to become a king in her own right. Her rediscovery is a powerful reminder that history is not always a fixed and final story, and that even a legacy deliberately buried under the sands of time can one day be brought back into the light.